Unmute, unmute. Hello, hello. Good evening, interwebs. I think it's alive, and everything feels weird because I'm in a different place. Hello, hello, and once again, we're opening the stream with a thank you to Chris Kingan and another $10. Thank you very much for the super chat, Chris. How are you doing? Why? No 7 p.m. It's 7:02. That's within the margin of error. Let's go with that. So, how's everyone doing tonight?
I'm sure there's some sort of 10% thing we can say. Also, I am exceedingly boomy.
Yes, you need to move your microphone a bit further away. I was about to say, I was just looking at OBS going, ah. All right.
Good Lord.
Caradog is loud. He was. Okay. All right. Try saying something again, Caradog.
Hello.
Yeah. All right. How does that sound? Is he still too loud? Slam those levels. Yes, still too loud. Okay. All right. I'll duck him a bit more then in that case.
Good Lord.
All right. Oh, let's go with that. What's up,
Pretty
Paige?
sure my microphone got set to like 4,000% boost.
Yeah. All of the boost. How does that sound to people now?
Because I can hear myself breathing through the microphone and it's like 15, 20 centimeters from my face. And I'm just like, oh no.
It's like playing Phasmophobia with you. And
hey,
yeah,
the difference is there an awful lot of the time I'm going...
Yeah, also I think you've got a bit of audio lag as well, Caradog. Do you want to reinitialize your cam? That fixed that the last time you had that issue, I think, didn't it?
It's Discord being Discord today.
We'll try it one more time. If not, Discord has been giving Caradog major issues. Before we went live, he's having to use the web client just to be in the call right now. So if Caradog has to sit and be out of sync, then so be it. Right, okay.
I will speak like I'm on a Japanese dubbed television program.
Or if you're in a car park looking for a space and you have to mouth words to people, you have to be like, "Are you going? Are you going?" You know.
I'm glad that didn't go to the full extent of that joke. There are possible sensitivity issues.
Right, okay, I think we're good. I am sad because I had something for show and tell today and I left it in the shop like the tomfool that I am. So yeah, that kind of sucks.
You silly.
So yeah, I guess I'll just tell you about it instead of showing you, which doesn't quite have the same impact, but whatever. I now have mouse jigglers. The jigglers are in stock. After the electronic stream last Friday or whenever it was, not Friday just gone. Yes, I have got a flipped cam, and yes, I know exactly what you mean, Andy. How are you doing, by the way? It's Discord. Discord flips your cam, and there's nothing you can do. Actually, I could flip that in software. I could double bamboozle. I could flip it back.
Yes. But
then it won't be.
Yes, absolutely.
I might fiddle while we're talking at some point.
It's fine. There we go. I fixed it.
Are we going to play this game? Because I'll play this game. Which one's me? That's you. Hang on a minute. We'll just have to face away from each other. Flip horizontal. There we go. We're no longer friends, so we're facing away from each other now. However, I'm no longer flipped. Anyway, so mouse jigglers on the electronic stream that I did last Friday. I said I wanted a mouse jiggler, and for those of you who don't know, that would be just a little gadget which you'd plug into a USB port, and it would just constantly make the mouse pointer move slightly, so that computer would not go to sleep. And as usual, there were lots of people who completely misinterpreted what my requirements for, and were just like, "Oh, just turn off the power saving," or "Oh, just run this script." I'm like, no, you don't get it. Sometimes you can't do that. Case in point, I have a laptop on the shop counter at the moment that's doing a data import from a very slow hard drive, which takes hours of it just sitting on a macOS install screen going, restoring your data. You can't, there's no terminal access, there's no settings access, you can't change any settings, but the computer will go to sleep if you don't cheat jogging the mouse. And obviously it doesn't transfer data while it's in sleep. So I wanted to sleep. I started falling asleep then while I was saying that. So I wanted it. So I bought a mouse jiggler from Amazon. Someone linked it in the Discord, and I bought the one on Amazon. It was like £25. And I'm like, this is a horrendous price for what I'm trying to achieve. You know, like you can buy a mouse on eBay for 99p. How is it possible that
Really?
yeah? I mean, it'll be a Chinese mouse that that's probably more effective as a bludgeoning weapon.
See, would a really bad solution have been like 140mm fan, color one of the fan blades in like silver pen, and just place it on top of a cheap optical mouse?
This is what I wanted to do when I said I wanted to make a mouse jiggler. But everyone was just like, oh, you can buy them. And I was like, fine, I'll go and buy one. So I bought one. However, the story doesn't end there. My exciting tale is not over, because then I got a letter today from a chap named Detlef in Germany. I believe that's how you pronounce that name. And he sent me a letter.
I'm so pleased you didn't check before going live.
And he sent me a letter saying, love the show, lots of hours of entertainment, thank you very much, and thank you very much for your kind words. And he sent me, it was a tiny little USB board with a tiny little Atmel micro on it. And he said, this is an Atmel, or an Aten XYZ, can't remember what it was because I've left it in the shop. And I've programmed it with a mouse jiggler program. So it pretends to be a mouse, and it jiggles the mouse cursor. And he sent me one, and it was exactly what I wanted, a tiny little USB board with a little micro on it. That's it. Now, the Amazon jiggler was also just a tiny little micro dongle fit and forget thing. So, you know, both good. But yeah, he sent me one, and he said, you know, this is what it is. I can send you the source code that I programmed to it, yada, yada. And I'm like, yes, this is it. This is what I wanted. I'm going to buy all of the stuff to make one of these so I can make a video about it and show people how they can make their own. So we have progress on that. And I was going to show it to you today, and then I left it in the shop. So rip me, I guess. So you'll get nothing. That's the end of my story. But the point is, the mouse jigglers are occurring. There will be many jigglers. That's it. That's the end of my story.
There'll be much jiggling.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes. No, it wasn't an Atmel. It was an Aten. Sorry. Attin. Aten. But yeah, it basically runs on the Arduino IDE. I seem to remember he said. So.
Still, that's cool though.
Only took how long? Yeah, only took several months. Hello, Spud, by the way. And yeah, and as I say, I've been using the Amazon one that I bought. I got that on Tuesday. I've been using it all week. It's a godsend. It's changed my world. Now, I still think it's too expensive for what it does, but I literally, any computer now where I'm just like, I need this computer to not go to sleep, plug it in the side. The computer doesn't sleep. Done. You don't have to change the settings. You don't have to run any programs. You don't have to run whatever Python script some dude sent me and said, here, run this Python script. So I'm like, you're missing the point. I appreciate your help, but you're missing the point. It's supposed to be an easy thing, you know? So, yeah.
It's also a case of it's supposed to be in that environment where you don't have the ability to do stuff.
Precisely. That's exactly when you need it. Because there are lots of solutions to this issue, but most of the time, when you need it the most is when you can't do any of those solutions. So, yeah.
Yeah, like you're running Ghost or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, Ghost doesn't sleep, but the point stands. Yes, I understand what you're saying.
But something equivalent when you're running some sort of booted environment to do something.
Or when you're in a recovery
I'm
environment.
going to go to sleep now.
Yeah, because as I say...
Just like, why would you have a sleep function on a recovery program?
Exactly. And again, it's the same way that macOS, while running Migration Assistant and restoring data, will sleep and stop restoring data. And I'm like, this is exactly the kind of time when you would leave the computer unattended running a mission-critical task. Why is sleep enabled at this time? You know?
Surely you'd have it set to being like 12 hours.
Yeah, sure, 12 hours. But then at that point, there's no point in having it on at all, you know. But yeah, and to answer that, yeah, Paige, you probably weren't here at the start of the conversation, but the idea is if you're in a recovery environment, or if you're like, for example, in my example, a Apple Mac running migration assistant, you can't access the settings in order to disable sleep. You don't have access to the settings at that point. All you have is just a window in the middle of the screen and the options to restore data. You can't get to settings, you can't get to a terminal, you can't do anything. And as I say, that's when you need to be able to jiggle the mouse.
I guess the other weird side option is also those mice that have really dodgy tracking. So you just lift them up so they're pointing into the air and they just go whee!
I have legitimately left a mouse dangling off the side of a counter and just jogged it so it swings like a pendulum. I've legitimately done that before, and that works. It's not very reliable, but it does kind of sort of work. So... But yeah, just program a cheap Nano 3. Yeah, that's basically the gist of it. But as I say, there will be more, because this chap sent me it was a really nice board, obviously pre-programmed, pre-made for all kinds of things that you might want to do. It's literally a piece of circuit board with USB prongs on it and a micro and a voltage regulator. That's it. That's the whole thing. Oh yeah, it had a couple of LEDs on it because you've got to have your blinking lights. So...
yeah, it's useful to know when something's actually receiving power.
Yes, exactly. And likewise, the Amazon jiggler that I purchased also has lights on it. You know, it had a little LED that goes orange when you first turn it on, and then it flashes green every time it activates every minute. And every time the light flashes green, you just see the mouse cursor go, doop. That's it. It's brilliant. I love it. So... put the mouse on top of a washing machine. Yeah, I'll just keep a washing machine under the counter. So that's the jiggler. That's the end of the jiggler story.
Given the other stuff that's under the counter.
Yeah. I want to talk about something that someone else just brought up in the chat, which is Bob Robbie's super chat with the £10. Thank you very much, Bob Robbie. I appreciate that very much. How you doing, my dude? Thank you very much. Right, what I actually wanted to talk about, because it wasn't actually going to be that super chat, is the RTX 3060 non-TI that's out of stock. It hasn't been released yet and it's already out of stock. But jokes aside, and it's 12 gigs of VRAM. I'm actually kind of mad about it. I mean, not really, but...
Why?
No, okay, I'm not mad. I'm curious, but also slightly annoyed. It's got 12 gigs of VRAM because NVIDIA are baiting AMD into whose mid-range card has the most VRAM, even though the VRAM on the 3060 is slower than all of the other 30 series cards. Therefore, the other 30 series cards with faster VRAM actually have more effective VRAM because you can chop data into it faster. So it's kind of a matter. So that's annoying. But there's also rumors, because there were rumors that it was going to have a lot of VRAM, and a lot of the rumors said that they're baiting miners. I mean Bitcoin miners, and there was a theory that they're pitching the card toward Bitcoin miners because crypto is still a craze.
No idea. No idea. I know nothing about mining.
Fair enough.
Specifically, I mean, I know by extension, by people talking about mining and folding at home communities, in a sense of it uses basically, as far as I'm aware, using cryptocurrency uses very little memory transfer. So the actual speed of the memory makes very little difference. However, it's a case that it wants to store it wants to store all of the stuff it's processing on the memory. As far as I understand it, whereas it's a case of the difference to folding at home is folding at home does a lot more bus transfer, so it's transferring stuff to and from the card a lot more often.
Yeah.
But I only that is the extent of my awareness because I've not looked into mining.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah. Do you have any feelings
As
about
far as I
do you have any feelings about this card?
I feel that Nvidia should have done a better job at saying memory capacity doesn't mean anything anyway.
Yeah, I think that because
Especially
again,
it's a
that's
card
kind of
that is aimed at 1080p.
yeah. That's the thing. It's like it's got 12 gigs of VRAM. It doesn't need like this thing. 6 gigs would have been fine, and I think they should have put 8. And considering it's slightly slower VRAM, they should have stuck 8 gigs on it. And they should have said, look, we'll put 8 gigs on it because we know it's slightly slower than the rest. And when people are just like, oh, well, why has it got 8 gigs of RAM, which is the same as the 3070? The 3070 is 8 gig, isn't it?
Think so.
Yeah. So they should have said, yeah, we'll stick 8 gigs on it. And when people said sort of, oh, well, that's what the 3070 has got, they could have said, yes, however, the 3070 has GDDR6X, which is and a much wider memory bus, which makes a big difference. So, so, yeah, okay, fair enough. In that case, at this point, I shall segue into Ben Laird. Sorry, I'm butchering your name. Thank you very much for the tenner super chat. And Night Fusion, how's it going, my dude? Thank you for the $5. GG Caradog for the Discord ping. I was supposed to tweet that we were going live. I'm going to tweet that we're live because I was going to do that.
Lord.
That was my self-assigned job, and I had one job and I didn't do it. So I'm going to quickly do that. If I can find it. There it is. We're now live. Come hang out.
But yes, my comment and my issue and so on with it is just the fact that Nvidia, again, they haven't done enough to tell people why the amount of RAM makes basically no difference.
Yes, I agree.
And the case of feel it backs themselves into a corner of to having to re-release the 3080. They have to re-release the 3080 at some point because there'll be a furore from people who don't understand and don't know anything about it, saying, how dare this other card have a greater number of megabytes of RAM, even though the RAM is less effective at playing games on.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah, there's a massive misunderstanding about how much VRAM you actually need at the moment. I've been threatening to make a video about this for ages, but I don't have a good enough testing environment to demonstrate it.
No,
which is why I haven't done it yet.
As far as I can tell, to actually tell how much VRAM a game, etc., is using and actually using, you need to have dev tools and stuff. You need to be able to pick apart the engine itself, because the requested amount and obviously the used amount can be and likely are very different.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I know a couple of the Call of Duty games request 99.9% of your VRAM, whether they need it or not. So if you've got 24 gigs of VRAM, it will show 23 gigs.
Yeah, that's no bueno. Yeah, because I was about to say, oh yeah, well come on, requested is a good indicator, surely, but yeah, in this case, apparently it's not.
It's a case that there are certain things that will do that, which will just request basically all of it and then use 1 gig or something like that. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, certainly the games I'm running, I've never seen my graphics card actually use a serious amount of VRAM, which again is why I'm skeptical about it. But I don't play many AAA games, so I can't really give, that's not saying much. It'd kind of be like firing up Dead Cells and going, oh, there you go, see, it doesn't use up much V memory at all. It's like, it's a 2D sprite game, of course it doesn't. So yeah. I'm going to quickly... Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm just going to quickly interrupt to say thank you, Guy Horn, for the $10 Canadian. Much appreciated. How you doing, my dude? Carry on, please.
Rupees, ruples.
Canadian rupees.
To quote the tech tips.
Yeah.
Yes. I was just going to say, the only time I've ever run into a VRAM issue was on the second remake Tomb Raider game. Rise of the Tomb Raider, I can't remember. That one, there is a level called geothermal.
Yeah.
Which is there is a couple of points in it where there is a very long view that you can do. Even at the lowest quality settings, at 2560, 1600, I could not get above about 15 to 30 FPS
Oh, really?
on certain points on certain views because it was capping out a VRAM. Because I only had 4 gigs of VRAM because this was on the 980s.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like I change the view and go to a slightly different view in a similar area, crank it to maximum, and I'm getting like 95 FPS. It was a case of I could clearly
was a hard brick
create.
Wall. Yeah.
Exactly. I could create VRAM limits where there were, where it would sort of chug off like that and just hit those walls. It was a case of that's the only time I've seen it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, at any rate, it seems that that's not a major issue we're going to come up against. But I do agree is that NVIDIA are not doing a very good job of conveying what VRAM is actually needed for, because yeah, as you say, because they're talking. There's too much emphasis on amount of VRAM and not enough emphasis on the speed of the VRAM. And you would think that NVIDIA would know better than this after the fiasco, because they've had fiascos about this before, where obviously they got bitten in the ass with the 970, and the fact that there was complications over how much VRAM there was, but also more importantly, some of the technicalities came down to the fact of how fast the VRAM was as
Absolutely.
well. So yeah, it is bizarre that NVIDIA seem to have not learned their lesson, and you would think they would want to turn around and go, oh no, but this is fast VRAM, and yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
It's definitely very strange. Although I feel it
I
might
think
be
part
academic.
of the issue is because it's a nuanced issue, because it requires a certain level of technical understanding.
Yeah.
It's very hard to explain it in a fashion that people will actually pay attention to, because so many people only pay attention to like 45 seconds of a video or a message. So yeah, but it's also a case of the 3060 non-TI, the 3060 has a much narrower memory bus and a much much slower memory. So it's kind of, great, I've got all of this RAM, but I can't really use it effectively.
Yeah, and plus, again, it's not only not being able to use it effectively because the time taken to fill the RAM is going to be too long, but it's also an issue of like this. This card is going to be the new king of 1080p anyway. It's going to be new king of 1080p for people who are 1080p moving up to 1440. And again, you don't really start chewing through VRAM until 4K is the general consensus, isn't it? For the most part, very broadly speaking, obviously. Although, I mean, again, 1440p, you can start hitting limits, but you're going to start hitting the core limits as well as RAM there. So just throwing more VRAM at the card doesn't necessarily make it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, especially as it's just the 3060 level of card, the 60 level tier, it's a case that you're going to run out of core clocks and stuff.
Yeah.
Move.
Sorry, I'm adjusting because the fact that we're facing away from each other is starting to annoy me, so I'm trying to adjust that. It bothers me. I'm very particular about how I like things to be laid out, even though we're messing around.
I'm sorry, I'll just sit like this now.
You're slightly off frame now, and that's even more annoying. Anyway, in that case, I'm going to segue to the Sugary Bun, who has donated 5 CHFs. That's hello from Switzerland. Good. That's helped me out considerably because I was just about to say, what the hell is a CHF? It's
it's a what?
It's francs, isn't it? Switzerland.
Swiss francs. Yes.
Swiss francs. Yeah. 5 francs. Thank you very much, Sugary Bun. So yeah, love your videos. Nearly at 100k. Thank you very much. And yes, we're getting close. It's nearly upon us. I have big plans. Things are going to start occurring.
You don't have any Swiss bank accounts.
Yes, no, I have no slush fund. I can't afford a slush fund.
Oh dear.
Let's see. I play 1440p on my 980 Ti, zero issues. Granted, you're not playing Cyberpunk or anything, but for all the games you play, it's bloody great. Yeah, well, I think you're right at the edges, and it depends on what you're doing. Because, for example, I've got a 1070, so I've got something that's obviously very, very close to a 980 Ti. Not sure if the 1070 will be slightly faster or slightly slower, but definitely in the same ballpark as your graphics card. I'm also playing at 1440p, and I can play single-player games 1440p, no problem at all. However, when I'm streaming, my graphics card falls over trying to stream it and run the game at the same time. However, I think that's an NVENC issue, or at the very least, it's capping out the graphics card just enough that when NVENC is running at the same time, the encoder falls over. The game looks great, the preview looks great, but OBS tells me I'm dropping frames like a buck without a plug. So I think that's right on the edges.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, as I say, single player, no problems at all. It's only because I stream that I want a higher end graphics card at the moment. If it weren't for streaming, I'd be fine. So, you're playing WoW Ultra settings. I've no idea how intensive WoW is by modern standards.
No.
What do you think
I've
would
not,
need to
I've not played it ever.
Yeah, well, I did, but I was playing it. I was playing it 10 years ago, so it's different time. You know, I've no idea what they've done with it since then. Forbes Henderson asks, what do you think would need to change in the current climate for GPU prices to return to normal? Well, we need shipping from China to return to normal. So, as in shipping via boat. So that needs two things. The backlog needs to disappear, because as far as I'm assuming, the boats and the docks are still backlogged with just mountains of shipping containers that need to be shipped. And secondly, once you've gotten rid of that backlog, you then also need a month for the new shipment of graphics cards to show up. And so that's the first two things. That will reduce the cost because you're not getting hit by air freight costs, because shipping via a plane is really expensive.
Absolutely.
We've got the issue there's the issue coming up of the GPU tax, the import tariffs. I don't know anything about these import tariffs. This is just a US thing, isn't it? Is this affecting other countries as well?
Yes. No, it is a US only thing. It's because China. And there, if you remember, there was a trade war instituted by the US leadership. It imposed tariffs on all of the goods that came from China. And was a special agreement in place that meant that graphics cards had a 2-year delay on that tariff.
Yeah.
And that is expiring imminently, has expired in the past couple of days. So it's a case of, that there was a 2-year delay on that applying, and that's applying now. And it's basically a case of, as far as I can tell, it's just a flat, here is £200 of extra cost on all graphics cards because they come from China.
What, just $200 on every graphics card? I didn't know the actual number on it. That's nuts. That's ridiculous, yeah. I mean, it's not much better. I mean, as Andre Pedrio, sorry I'm butchering your name, I butcher everyone's name, has just pointed out, in Portugal, no GPUs for sale anywhere. Same over here in the UK. The other day, I was helping out a chap in another Discord server who was just like, I want a new graphics card. And both myself and Caradog were there in the conversation, trying to give him advice. And I was just like, okay, let's find him something. He probably doesn't need anything super flash, because he was talking about like a higher end graphics card. I searched everywhere. I checked Amazon, I checked overclockers, I checked Scan. I was looking around, literally could not find a graphics card for sale. And I was like, okay, look, there's not going to be any 30 series. Okay, what about a 20 series? Nope, can't find one of them. fine, 1660 Super. Nope, no 1660s. It's like AMD. Nope, none of that. 10 series. Nope. Okay. So the only place you go is you check eBay, and that is just riddled with all the graphics, all the secondhand graphics cards at about twice what they are actually worth. And you literally cannot buy a graphics card right now. And here's a fun fact. Just before we went live, I was talking to a friend who I haven't spoken to in a while, who sent me a message saying, hey, are you still in the PC building business? Because I built his computer five years ago, maybe longer. He's got an FX9, and it's a bit long in the tooth now. And he said, I want to buy a new PC. I've got a lot of money to spend because I haven't been doing anything. And he said, I can see that graphics cards are out of stock. And he said, I'm thinking of buying a 3090 and an AMD Ryzen 5000. And he said, I know the 3090 is not considered good value for money, but it's all I can find. Because, as people know, the 3090s are around because no one's bonkers enough to buy them. And in the end, I thought about it and I was like, you know what? If you can afford that, then just buy it. And I felt insane to give that advice. I said, full disclosure, this is bad value for money. This is not a smart move. However, it's either this or you spend the next 2, 4, 6 months, who knows, waving, with your mouse with your finger pointing, hovering over your mouse button, waiting for a 3080 to come in stock somewhere. Or you could just buy a 3090 right now and be done with it.
Yeah,
and that's absolutely what he did. He just went and dropped 1,800 quid on a 3090. And and I looked at that and I'm just like, is that really where we're at now? And he's just like, yeah, that's where we're at, because that's the only graphics card you can buy right now. What else could he have done, unless he wanted to wait 6 months? And we know how it was from 2019. We waited for the 30 series. We waited for the Ryzen 5000. We waited. How long are you going to wait?
As the supply of Ryzen 5000 seems to be much improved now, though, because they're certainly seeming to sit in stock for several days at a time.
Yes, so, the Ryzen 5000 is definitely getting there. Yeah, so definitely the lonely ones,
except for the 5900.
Yeah, and I hear the 5950X as well is unobtainium. Apparently,
I don't know. I can only go off of supply numbers given, and people
according to Wanshow,
no supply issues.
Yeah, I was watching Wanshow the other day, and someone sent a super chat to Linus saying, I've got a 5950X with a missing pin. Do you want it for science? And he said, yes, because also we can't get hold of one ourselves. It's like, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if Linus Tech Tips can't get a 5950X, I think it's safe to assume that they're pretty hard to get hold of at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a weird half situation where there was this period of a couple of weeks. It seemed like the issue was purely shipping.
Chinese New Year. Yeah. It's a perfect storm of lots of things now, isn't it?
But I'm very much not someone who is knowledgeable on global logistics. I'm very much not someone who is knowledgeable about running a profitable logistics company. But it seems mad to me that shipping demand has stayed basically the same, but shipping supply has reduced. It seems weird to me that that's happened. I realized that there are far few passenger flights happening, and there was a lot of freight that went on passenger planes and so on. But it's kind of a case of, surely if you have the planes and there is a demand for the cargo to be carried by air, why wouldn't you be flying a similar number of flights to cover the cargo demand.
Yeah.
Because if there is that level of demand and that much lower supply, you can charge an amount that would make it profitable,
Yeah.
because there will still be people who are willing to pay the higher rate to get the faster delivery.
That's the thing.
So it just seems odd to me that it's not happened.
It begs the question, this supply issue has been ongoing for a matter of months now. And it's just like, well, okay, if a boat takes a month to arrive, this has been going on for a couple of months, so where are the boats? Why didn't you just dispatch all the boats? And why didn't you just dispatch all the planes? So the fact that, clearly that I think that's why this is clearly a more complicated situation than that. Otherwise, it would have been that simple to solve.
Yeah, no, I don't mean this as a supply issue. I mean this as a raw metric of kilograms of cargo capacity for shipping has reduced compared to this time last year. But the demand for that cargo capacity has increased. So why wouldn't you continue to fly the flights?
Yeah.
If the demand is still there. I don't understand why the flights have been scrapped. That's my point.
Yeah, Darren Cliff just said a lot of countries, including USA, are blocking flights incoming because of COVID. Surely they've got something in place for that, because obviously with cargo, like passenger flights are obviously more complicated, but surely cargo flights are less effective, because surely you can just quarantine that, right? You could just say, yeah, sure, you can bring your plane in, but everything's going to sit in port with no access for 3 days.
Yeah, basically.
Or something like that, I mean, again, I'm speaking out of ignorance here, but it's another thing though, isn't it? It's like, okay, your supply, your shipment was delayed leaving, it was delayed getting over here, it was delayed in customs, it's just delay. That is all adding up to what we're seeing. So I think it's probably, I think the answer to this is probably all of the above. So,
although interestingly, also there appears to be issues with actual wafer supply.
Yeah, I saw a couple of people in chat mentioning that.
There's an issue on the actual wafer supply side as well before it even gets made. There's I don't know which specific parts of it, but yes. I can't remember who it was an interview with. It might have been Intel, it might have been AMD, saying that there are chemical supply issues for the actual manufacture of the wafers. So that's interesting.
Yeah. A ship that lost 1,900 containers of GPUs and PS5s in a Pacific storm. Has anyone got a source on that? I haven't heard about that. I'd be interested to read about that. That sounds juicy.
It's just...
Yeah. At any rate, though, it's...
I think it's a case that because there are lots of bits causing lots of little delays, those all add up to everything that we're seeing through the entire chain. And because every part of the chain is facing issues, it then means that other things get delayed more and stuff like that.
Yeah. TSMC are struggling. Yeah, I mean, they're oversupply. They seem to be doing okay, but NVIDIA, obviously, they're getting their wafers from Samsung anyway, because it's Samsung 9 nanometer, or is it 7 nanometer? I can't remember.
It's 8.
8. Oh, that's the one, yeah.
Whatever the actual 8 nanometer equates to.
Yeah, true that. Yeah. At any rate, Samsung's process. So, yeah, obviously TSMC won't be affecting the supply of the 30 series at the moment. Although, presumably, that is also going to relate to the new AMD cards, so the 6000 series cards. So that would do it. Portuguese April Fools, that report of the overboard PS5s and GPUs. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounded a bit too good to be true. Fair enough. Yeah.
It's...
Yeah, the MSI theft, that one I definitely believe, because MSI themselves acknowledged that one. I wonder if anything came of that in the end.
It's weird. It's kind of weird because obviously 3090s would be reasonably difficult to shift outside of China. So I would imagine that they've I've imagined that they've gone into some massive Bitcoin mining farm or equivalent.
Yeah, could do, I suppose. Hmm.
That's what I'd imagine, because obviously if it goes through any official border, they're going to be taking down all of the serial numbers and stuff, and
Yeah,
they're just
and
going to
those
find
those
them.
all would have been retail boxed, so it would have been really easy to track those down. Yeah.
That's why I'm saying I'm imagining that they haven't actually left China
Hmm. Fair enough.
or China.
Well, yes. The region and GDDR6X shortage. Oh, you're joking. That as well. Yeah, fair enough.
I'm
It's
intrigued.
how yeah, just everything is it's so sucky right now because like at the end of 2020 we were all basically sitting here going, oh, it's such an exciting time to be building computers, new AMD
Yeah.
CPUs, new graphics cards, and they're really good. The new CPUs are really good, the new graphics cards are really good. And somehow the best and most exciting time to be building a new computer has suddenly turned into the worst and most paper time to be building a computer. It's such a cop out, isn't it? It's such a nothing burger.
Yeah,
And people
but
keep announcing that we've got really amazing new technology, but you can't buy any of it.
no, but it's kind of a case of that's what
Yeah.
happens
The impact will
in a
the
sense.
impact will be until quarter 2 or 3. Yeah, no doubt. It'll take months for something like this to clear up. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
gaming laptops are the way to go for 21. Ooh, I want to say no to that, but that's because I'm biased. I don't like gaming laptops. I mean, the concept of a gaming laptop is all well and good. You know, having lots of gaming horsepower in a laptop, that's cool at face value. However, I think gaming laptops cost too much for what is basically a dead end because they're not upgradable and they're not repairable. Or they're very, I'll rephrase that. They're very difficult to repair if there's a problem with them. And so I find it very difficult to recommend that anyone buys a gaming laptop personally. And also the latest. Oh, hold on. The latest news is that the 30 series mobile chips won't be anywhere near as fast as the desktop equivalent. Like I can't remember exact numbers, but like significantly slower than the desktop equivalent. So when you buy a laptop that says this has got a RTX 3070 in it, that thing that's another. It's nowhere near a desktop 3070. Like it's not just a cut down one. It's not the. It may as well not be the same GPU. It's that different. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm intrigued that the difference in performance is bigger this time round.
hmm,
However, it's understandable considering how high the peak power draws are on the 30 series cards.
yeah. It's understandable. Yeah, I think it's just disappointing that they're calling it a 3070 per se. I suppose it begs the
I
question. Well, what
guess.
else? What else do you call it then? But I think I think I don't know what else they could call it, but I think it's disingenuous to say that I'm using 3070 as an example here. But I think it's disingenuous to sell a laptop and say this has got the 3070 mobile in it because anyone, and certainly obviously you're going to get a lot more less savvy people buying gaming laptops because obviously they're buying into a laptop which is easier to understand. You buy the laptop, you have a gaming computer. Whereas when you buy a gaming PC, I think the less people, most non-tech savvy people will go for laptops because that is something that is pre-built and ready to go. And they will look at that and they'll go, 3070, everyone says the 3070 is good, so I will buy this laptop. And the fact is that has something that has nowhere near the horsepower of a 3070. So I think it's disingenuous to call it a 3070. Perhaps they should call it a. Well, that's just it. I don't know what else to call it, but I don't think it should have a 3070 label on it.
Yeah, I've no
when it's
idea what
that
you'd
far
actually
out.
call it.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I'm not Nvidia marketing. It's not my job to come up with this. Um,
Oh, absolutely.
but
Yeah,
I just
it's
yeah. Hmm.
it's
Yeah. Might buy.
um it's also just a difficulty of, obviously, because it's a laptop, you have significant thermal constraints, as well as, obviously, you can't have it use that much power
Yeah. Yeah. As I say, it's completely
because
understandable.
it needs to function
Yeah.
on battery. Because if it doesn't function on battery, what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
it's
completely
understandable.
understood.
It's just disappointing.
Yeah, and considering the 30 series graphics cards are so power hungry, it's just what else can they do? So that is fair
Exactly.
enough
Yeah.
as well. Yeah. The 3080 mobile is the equivalent to a 2060. Oh, can anyone confirm? Is it that bad?
I mean, if that's the that
I,
seems unlikely at best.
well, as I
Considering
say,
I
have
say that
heard that
because
it's
a
terrible.
desktop 3060. Well, but I say a desktop 3060 is the same as a desktop 2060 Super or 2070. It's kind of a case of you would have to drop from a 3080 to a 3060 and then more. It's kind of
Close
it's
to a
unlikely.
2080. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Either way, it's understandable, but yeah, I don't know. I think they should sort something out there. Don't know. As I say, I mean, I guess my sentiment is I hate always referring to WAN show, but hey, that's the other tech show that I watch. So that's conversations that I've heard, and I think I'm reflecting Linus's sentiment where with the previous generations we were just about at a point where mobile GPUs were basically this close to their desktop counterparts. They weren't as fast, of course they're not, but they were within a shout. You could put them on the same bar graph, and now suddenly we've gone hard in the other direction to the point where they're no longer in the same category again.
I do think it's entirely because of how high the spikes in power draw have been. Just by the fact that, we've seen 3080s hitting, 450 watt spike draws, 500 watt spike draws.
It's those spikes that are the lethal
I think it's
part.
because we've had those. It's a case that we're not going to. When you obviously cannot allow that in a laptop, because there's no way you can give an 800 watt power supply to a laptop.
No, absolutely not.
No. It's a case that maybe you could get 400 watts in there. Then it's going to have two 40 mil fans running at 8,000 RPM. It's going to sound like it's trying to take off.
Yeah, and again, this is why I end up just saying that gaming laptops end up not really being worthwhile, because the kind of gaming laptop, which is the one that you'd actually want to have, that's fast and quiet and powerful, is just the ones that can do that. All the big chunking gaming laptops, the big monsters that are big enough to have quiet cooling fans in them and stuff like that. You may as well have a monitor and a small form factor PC, to all intent and purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
I just wish that, because I was looking at a laptop, because I want something that is performant. It doesn't need to be crazy fast. It just needs to be performant with dedicated hardware, kind of thing. And I was just like, I was looking, and I was like, I cannot buy anything with a non-crap dedicated graphics card for less than £800. And I'm like, all I want is a basic 1650 or something, just an actual dedicated graphics card. That's it. That will do. Or something with actually good onboard graphics. It's a case that most of the time when they say, oh yes, it's got onboard graphics, good, We've also limited it to DDR4 at 2666.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
And just all these weird configuration things. I'm just like, I don't need it to be super crazy fast at gaming. I just need it to not suck when I'm trying to watch Twitch and have Discord open at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like, if having Twitch open and running Discord is too much for a gaming laptop, it's not actually very good.
No. And yeah, it's so difficult to actually come up with a solution that is actually what people need. And again, I just feel like you make too many concessions to actually get something that works. And just, therein lies the problem. I mean, I guess it's just, I guess it's only really good for people who just simply move their computers around often. Because, for example, if you want to go to a LAN party, you can just go to a LAN party, open up your gaming laptop, even if it's a big chunky boy. You know, even if it's something that is like a 20-inch monster that's 4 inches thick and all the rest of it, you still walk up to the desk, open the screen, and turn it on. So I can still understand the appeal, I guess. But I feel like it's just an incredibly niche product that most people who think they need it don't actually need it. But yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely.
I think I'm just ranting at this point. I don't think I'm actually going anywhere now.
There's an interesting conversation as well, just about that we had from work about the amount of space that people think a desktop needs. It's kind of a case of, because it was like people were saying that, well, a specific person was saying, oh, I don't have a space for a desktop. I was just kind of like, okay, that's your only option. If you don't have a laptop and you want a computer, the only option I've got for you is a desktop right now. And I'm like, oh, I don't have space. And I'm like, you don't have 24 inches of flat horizontal surface in your entire house.
Yeah.
Because that's all you need.
I'd actually wager that to an extent, a desktop can take up less space than a laptop, because obviously a laptop, you've got that...
That's table space anyway.
Yeah, exactly. The footprint of a desktop is... owing to the fact that if space is really a premium, then you put the tower on the floor, and obviously there are disadvantages to that, but whatever. Ignoring the fact that you put the tower on the floor, you put the tower on the floor, and I would actually wager that the footprint of your keyboard, mouse, and monitor stand is going to be less than the laptop, because obviously your monitor, you can push that all the way back, whereas the laptop is going to be in the middle of your desk, and you can't put it anywhere, whereas the desktop, the monitor is at the back, so that's not taking up any space, and then all you have is the keyboard and mouse, which can be shifted around. So there's a strong argument to be made that the desktop will use less space. And I have this conversation with customers as well, where lots of, so many of my customers say they want a laptop, and I have a conversation with them, and I'm like, have you considered a desktop? Because it's better bang for buck, it's more upgradable, it's more repairable, you can do more with it, you can change the role of it if you change your mind. So if your requirements change later on down the line, you can, if you're, I often get like mum or dad come in who is just like, oh, we don't play games at the moment, but I think, we've got a kid who might be getting into gaming and stuff like that. And I'm like, so if you buy a desktop, we can just drop a big ass graphics card into it later on down the line, whereas with a laptop, you need to make that decision now because you can't change your mind. And
absolutely.
A lot of people, they just haven't considered a desktop. They haven't thought about that. And as I say, then a lot of people will say sort of, oh, I don't think I've got space for that. And I'm like, I think you probably do. You just haven't considered it. And the most frustrating thing is one of my customers who I thought I had actually convinced him to go desktop, then ended up coming back in saying, oh, no, I think I am going to buy a laptop after all. And I'm just like, okay. We're gonna. I'll see you in a couple of years, saying, "Oh, I want this laptop to be faster," and I'll say, "We can't make it faster because it's a laptop. And if you bought a desktop, we'd be able to do something with it. But you went with a laptop, so it's a dead end."
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just kind of a case of it was just the fact that it was like, you cannot find any space to set up this desktop so you can work. Okay, I guess you don't have a job then. That's your problem, not mine
Oh,
now.
yeah, yeah. From the work from home perspective. Yeah.
I was just like, oh no, I guess that's your problem now. You killed your laptop that you said you could work from.
Yeah.
You said, here's a desktop. I went, no. I went, I guess you don't have a job then.
See, that sounds really harsh, but sometimes I have a phrase
If
that
you are actively refusing to work for 8 months,
yeah.
shockingly, you lose your job.
Yeah, I have a phrase that I often say that I wish was a bit more mainstream is sometimes it takes a brick through a greenhouse to get through to people. You know, it's just a lot of people are just like that's brutal or oh you're being really harsh and like a lot of now and then with customers I can be blunt to the point of being rude. But the thing is that when someone goes, you can't say that to me, it's just like yeah, but now you're listening to me, aren't you? Now you're hearing what I'm saying. Yeah. You were not listening to me at all. Then I was rude. Now you're listening. And now we're having a conversation instead of me speaking and you not listening. You know, this conversation has suddenly taken a completely different direction. But
no, but that's how conversations go.
Can I get a laptop with a Threadripper? Heck no. The CPU itself is bigger than your laptop.
So. Although you can get laptops with 3950Xs.
Oh, God, really? Oh, well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's locked to 65 watt mode, but still.
Oh, yeah, 3950X, sorry. I thought you were going down the Xeon route then.
Oh, no. No, not a W31, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm just going to overclock my 28-core laptop.
Well, still, you know, that 3950X laptop, again, that's sure it's locked to lower power states, but you still get that massive core count. And yeah, you know, if you're doing a parallel job, maybe that's useful. So.
Oh, absolutely. No, I wasn't saying it was stupid. I was just saying, well, if you need that number of cores on the go, it is possible to at least get 16.
Yeah. See, this is the thing, is there's not a doubt in my mind that there's someone out there that needs all of these things that I'm scoffing at. You know, I'm saying sort of, oh, you know, people don't need these gaming laptops and, oh, you know, people don't need that many cores in their laptop or whatever. There's going to be someone out there who's just like, no, this is exactly what I need. But
yeah, I think it's a case of the comment is more the mass populace does not require.
And I think a lot of people have a nasty habit of seeing something that exists and assuming they need it because it's rad. For the same reason as to why a lot of people overspec their RAM, CPU, or whatever, because that higher spec exists, they're convinced that they need it. And that's kind of the bit that you need to not. That there needs to be some pushback on, you know, because obviously, you know,
yeah, absolutely.
I don't like people going to the opposite end of the spectrum and under-speccing. You know, I'm a big believer in. I'm not going to say future-proofing, but I'm a big believer that it's never a mistake to spend a bit more than you intended to and ending up with something better. You know. It's better to have some. It's better to have something. It's better. Overkill is better than underkill, right? You know.
Yeah, it's certainly a case of it's better if you end up spending, you know, a couple of % more than your budget, getting something that means that you actually got a marked improvement.
Yeah,
absolutely. Than saving 10% in your budget and going, I don't have something that does my job.
Yeah, especially if you're spending a little bit extra to move up into another category as well. You know, sometimes, yeah, and or failing that, it's like, you know, it's kind of like when I'm doing SSD conversions on iMacs. You know, some people are just like sort of, oh, I've only got 100 or 200 gigs of data. 500 gig SSD will be fine with me. And I'm like, I appreciate that. However, taking your iMac apart is a hecking ball ache. Are you sure you don't want to stick a 1 terabyte SSD in there and then say, that's it, that's the last drive this computer will ever need for the rest of its life? You know? Yeah. Because...
especially if it's like £10. Yeah. As a lot of the time it was.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's yeah. Well, on that note,
I was looking at super cheap SSDs and sort of just sorted by price and just kind of went, I can spend £16 and buy a 32 gig SSD. Okay. Or I can spend £19 and buy a 256 gig SSD.
Ha. Yeah, sure.
I was just like, am I going to spend £4 for 4 times the capacity?
Yeah.
I
guess
wonder.
so. Yeah.
It's just, it was crazy. It's just crazy how right at the bottom end, £4-5, actual £4 or £5 expenditure, whilst obviously as a percentage, that sort of 40% increase in price, in absolute terms, it's £1, £5, £6 gives you 4 times the capacity or 4 times the performance.
Yeah.
So it's a case that certainly going for the absolute cheapest can be a really bad idea.
Yeah, and it's why it's always worth. It's always an interesting look. This seems like a really great way to segue into another topic that I was going to mention as well that came up because Firephone just threw out a question saying, Graham, Quick or Atten? And he's referring to soldering equipment there because Quick and Atten both make hot air stations. My answer to that is Quick. And the reason for that is I've just bought a Quick. So
if you want to buy one, you too can buy one from my special links.
Not yet. I don't have I haven't made an affiliate link for it yet. I don't have an affiliate link for it yet, so I can't do it. However, I'll show you. I finished filming review would be the wrong word, but I finished I finished recording an overview. There we go. I got there in the end. And will this work? That kind of works. Whether you can make out anything on it or not, who knows? I got a small quick station, a quick hot air station, and I was filming on it. And the long and the short of it is, this quick hot air station was about $80 or so, and it's brilliant. It decimated my WEP hot air station, which has the crappy little Chinese Atten style blower on it, where the blower is in the handle of the hot air station. And it's the difference was astonishing. And this is the thing: is the cheapo hot air station with the blower in the handle, you can probably pick those up for $40 or $50. And normally when people are starting out and they're like, oh, I kind of want a hot air station just to experiment or practice with, just to get a feel for it, but I don't want to spend £350 or $350 on a Quick, whatever the one Lewis Rossman uses is. So I would say, get the Atten style one or get the one with the blower in the handle. Because I've got one of those, and that's the one that I've used in all of my repair videos so far. And now, to make no mistake, obviously I'm not a wizard. I'm not the best out there by any sense of the imagination. I'm just learning as well. But if I've gotten this far with a cheap Chinese one, it can't be that bad, right? However, now the Quick. Yes, it's twice the price, but it's still less than $100. It's still a 2-figure sum of money, and it is orders of magnitude better. When I actually tried it on BGA chips, the difference was astonishing. I tried it on a BGA chip that I've been struggling with for a long time, the RAM chips on a MacBook Air, and spoilers, the WEP, I was sitting there for about a minute going, hot air blasting down on this thing, eventually got it reflowing. I was like, okay, there we go, it's flowing, but I've probably just cooked that chip. Doesn't matter, it's a dead practice board. Then I tried the Quick. The Quick, 10, 20 seconds, and the chip was flowing. It was astonishing. And I was just like, I'm 100% sold on that hot air station. I'm absolutely sold on it. So, yeah, it's... And again, if it had been a $300 hot air station or a $400 hot air station, I wouldn't be surprised. It's a professional station. Of course it's going to be good. But again, this thing is like $80. It's like $80 and it's fantastic. And I'm just like, this is great. If you want to get into soldering.
Arguably, if you're planning on actually doing it professionally, so you're going to be charging people for it, a single repair is going to be that £80 or $80.
Yeah, absolutely that.
So it's a case of you need to do 2 repairs. You have broken even.
Yeah, pretty much. That's one that you can very quickly recover from. Yeah, because lots of people say
something that is apparently that much better.
Yeah, Like lots of people say that about the more expensive stuff. They're like sort of, oh, you should spend $800 on your soldering equipment because if you charge £100 per repair, you've only got to do 8 repairs and you've paid off for your equipment. I'm like, yeah, but as anyone who is working on a small scale like me will tell you, that doesn't make the $800 investment bite any less. That's still a lot of money when most those 8 repairs, that's that $800, that's 2 months rent on your premises. If you're anything like me, if you've got a tiny little shed of a shop, that's 2 months rent. So,
Yeah,
I mean, obviously you've got lots of other expenses on top, but the point still stands.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just kind of a case of when you can basically go, the cost in getting an order of magnitude of improvement in equipment is less than the cost of a single repair I'll be able to do with this equipment.
Yeah.
It kind of becomes very much a no-brainer sum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yes, mentioning stuff like that, I may have started slightly, possibly, maybe a minor electrical fire in a wire wool scrub over little wire wool scrubby things.
Yeah.
I've got that 22-volt battery.
This is a LiPo battery, right? Yeah.
Yes, that 22-volt LiPo battery.
That's a 5-cell?
I have a something like that.
Yeah, 5-cell. Yeah.
I've got an XT60 to barrel jack adapter for it, so to use it with the TS100.
Isn't that the TS100 goes up to 24 volts, so sure, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely fine. The barrel jack, I plugged in the XT60. The barrel jack was inside the wire wool.
I assume it had just fallen
through
there.
the wire wool.
Oh god.
Yes. So it just dead shorted straight through the wire wool, and I just heard spark, flame, and I was just like, oh no.
And I can just see you sort of going on your desk kind of thing.
The worst part was I was walking up the stairs.
Oh no.
So I was just like, oh
no. See, this is how it happens, because you go, oh, ow, this is hot, and then you drop it on the floor, and then the floor is on fire. I'm glad you didn't burn your house down. So that's
but
good.
It's just about, I was just like, oh no, oh dear. But yes, I very much decided that if I ever go camping again, I'm not going to bother with a flint. Just going to take wire wool, 22-volt LiPo battery, stab.
Sure, why not? Well, you stab the barrel jack into the wire wool, don't stab the battery, but just so we're clear on that, do not stab a LiPo battery. Spicy pillows.
Absolutely, but yes. Oh, just
Fair
I
enough.
like. I like LiPos just for solid.
They're cool. It's fun because it's an awful lot of power in a very small space. It's exciting. I'm going to segue onto an interesting one that's just come out. Logan Parker has just said that his Haswell i3 jumps up to like 76 degrees during gaming. Is that okay? It's a Dell SFF, so airflow's limited. That's kind of... it's fine. As Sai said, your CPU is... so here's my rules of thumb, and this is a sweeping generalization, but it's a good rule of thumb. Your CPU is... Your cutoff point is going to be around 100 degrees or so. If you hit 3 figures, that's the point where the CPU is very likely to hit thermal cutout and actually die, or the computer will turn off.
Yeah.
When you're sitting up in the 90s, that's when you're in thermal throttle territory. So essentially, anything that's 80 degrees and under is arguably fine with asterisks attached. So as long as you're under 80 degrees, you're okay. But that much being said, though, in a gaming load, 76 is pretty high, I would say. If that was a stress test, then I would say that's fine because that's as high as it'll ever go. But a stress test, you're probably going to see mid-80s on that CPU, maybe even pushing into 90. So personally, if I were you, I'd try and take that computer apart and make sure it's all cleared out of dust, because if it's a small form factor, it will be a dust trap in there. And I've seen those Dell small form factors, so I would wager that it's full of dust. And I would seriously consider, if you got the expertise or if you're brave enough, I would seriously consider replacing the thermal paste as well. Because normally I don't, there are some people that are just like, oh, you should replace your thermal paste every year or every 3 years. I think that's overkill. If the mount is fine, then it's fine. However, in a small form factor where you've had poor airflow and it's been running hot, it's quite likely that the thermal paste is cooked and not doing its best. And I had a computer in this week where I cleaned out a moderate amount of dust, not a huge amount, but there was enough that it would have been causing an issue, and replaced the thermal paste on an FX6, and I knocked 20 degrees out of the temperature. 20 degrees centigrade. I knocked out the temperature just by cleaning it and thermal pasting it.
Had to have been a slightly dodgy mount beforehand.
That's the thing. When I took the heatsink off, the thermal paste hadn't dried out, and I took it off. I was like, oh, well, that's not baked. But I think it was just boiled, basically.
I was impressed.
It's like cheese that's been in the microwave too long and it's separated into water. I think that's what happens to it. And so yeah, and the same went for the graphics card. It had an old R7 270X in it, which again was running a little bit toasty. And same deal. There wasn't really very much dust on the graphics card, not enough to be a problem, I don't think. I repasted the graphics card as well, and the graphics card, obviously, because that's because that has a temperature target, you don't just knock temperature out of a graphics card, but it went from a solid 80 degrees at 85% fans in Firmark down to high 70s at 75% fans. So obviously it was targeting high 70s to 80s for its temperature, but it was achieving lower temperatures with less fans. So again, just redoing the thermal paste had made a clear and significant improvement to the well-being of that graphics card. So yeah, as I say, and also LM Infinite just said, or I'm Infinite, sorry, I'm not sure if that's an L or an just said, for the i7 4790, T-case is 72.72. That will be TJ Max, Delta over ambient. And now someone else might be able to help me clarify this. My understanding is delta over ambient means 72, in this case 72.7 degrees above ambient. So you take that and you add the ambient temperature onto it. Is that correct? Because
I mean, delta T over ambient is the delta. Delta is change from ambient to whatever temperature you're measuring. So if your ambient is 20, your delta T is 20, the measured temperature is 40.
Yeah. So in which case,
because its delta is a change.
Yeah. So if the 4790 T case, so at the case,
the case is not delta T over ambient.
Oh, okay, that's a specific thing then. Okay, I assumed that that's from Intel Arc, and it would have delta T over ambient next to it. In which case, it would be 72 plus ambient, which is actually about 90 something.
Sure, yes, kind of. In a very wish-washy, not particularly accurate version, but that's not what T-case is. Okay. I can't remember explicitly what the full definition of T-case is, but it will be a case of, it will be like T-case will say, using this power with this cooler will provide a T-case of at a maximum permissible for this chip of kind of thing, and there'll be parameters for what they'll say. Obviously, the over ambient thing is a case of, because you need to adjust for your ambient temperature when comparing to other people's results. Because if your ambient is 30, but someone else's is 16.5, you will have higher temperatures by the fact that you've got 14C less capacity of heat.
Yeah,
quote unquote.
I've just looked it up on Intel Arc, and they actually have a little question mark there to say what is the definition of this, and it specifically says T case temperature is the maximum temperature allowed at the processor IHS, integrated heat spreader. So yeah, that's literally at the heat spreader. So I think so. Then it's going to depend on whether you're measuring. Again, it's going to depend on whether you're measuring T case or core. And theoretically, most of the temperature readings you're seeing will be core temp, not T case. And it's quite likely that your core temp could easily be 10 or 20 degrees above T case, because that last couple of millimeter down to the core, that's a lot of heat trapped in there. So yeah. So when Intel Arc says 74 degrees maximum temperature, and you're looking at your core temp can probably be a good 10 or 15 degrees above that before you actually hit 74 at T case. So yeah, I'm half right. I'm right for the wrong reason. So
yeah, and also just because Haswell had horrific heat transfer from core to top of IHS as well.
Yeah. Although that much being said,
with that 4770.
Yeah. The actual thermal specifications for CPUs haven't really changed a lot over the years in my experience. Generally speaking, the kind of temperatures that people are targeting and do not want are kind of the same, really, by and large.
Oh, absolutely. No, I was just saying that obviously the difference between T-die and T-case on Haswell is likely to be far wider than it is to be on, say, Ice Lake or something.
Yeah, which is Ice Lake? Is that 10th gen?
That's certain 10th gen on laptops.
The one with the thinner IHS, yeah.
Because, because it's the specific Ice Lake range of processors. Yes, I forgot entirely what the desktop ones are. Comet Lake? Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten. I can't remember. Or Comet Lake might be the new ones. I've forgotten. I stopped paying attention to Intel.
It's some kind of lake. Yes, same. Yeah,
because their naming schema is atrocious.
How about those AMD? How about those new AMD chips that are 5,000 designators but not Zen 3? Have you heard about that?
No.
There's hang on a sec. Can anyone tell me what's the name of the new AMD announced new mobile CPUs?
Laptop processors.
Yeah, AMD new laptop.
Oh, what, like the 5960HX?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, so not the hype of. There was a couple of their mobile series. There was a couple of their mobile 5000 series that were not Zen 3.
Really?
And they're branded 5000 series, and everyone's just like, this is exactly why you skipped 4000 to fix this problem.
Oh.
And it's just like, no, how could you do this? However, I don't have the press release right in front of me. I once again have spoken on a topic while having 0 sources in front of me. Please forgive me. Someone else may be able to confirm. But yeah,
I'll just look at an Antex press release because I have it in there.
So yeah, that's pretty terrible. Also, for someone who's asking me, am I eating raw cookie dough? Not quite. It is a baked cookie. However, my partner, the lovely Kimber, has been making cookies. It's from a Betty Crocker kit, and they're delightfully sweet. But because they're baked, they're proper soft, gooey cookies. They're very tasty.
Oh,
what have you found?
Oh, right.
Tell the people about it while I scoff this cookie.
HHS and HX are all Zen 3 parts. So from the 5600HS all the way up to the 5980HX are all Zen 3. The 5800U is Zen 3, the 5600U is Zen 3. 5700U is Zen 2.
Yeah, there it is. And yeah, DNA Electronics called it as well.
5500U is Zen 2. 5300U is Zen 2.
Why are there Zen 2 CPUs with a 5000 series name? This is exactly why they skipped 4000.
I wouldn't have a problem with it. Wouldn't have a problem with it if it was all of the U series ones, all of the like 5300 and 5500
at least
U
it was
series.
Consistent,
I wouldn't have a problem. Yeah. but the 56, 57, and 58 surely should be Zen 3.
Yeah.
Oh, that's dumb. So dumb.
Jack Glick, thank you very much for the $10 super chat there. Hello from NYC. Glad you could finally catch this live. No problem. How you doing? So while we're wallowing,
yes, that actually annoys me.
Yeah, you see what I mean? Have I just ruined your day?
It's so dumb.
Yep.
Why the 5700 when the 5600 is a Zen 3?
Yeah.
That's so shockingly daft.
Yeah. And it's just like, literally, this is literally why they skipped the 4000 series, because they knew that their naming schema was completely broken. And so they're like, fine, we're going to jump up to 5000 series.
I could understand if they'd done the 53, the 54, the 55 as Zen 2, and then gone 56, 7, 8 as Zen 3. I could understand that because they're trying to make the 53, 54, 55 as cheap as possible.
Yeah.
Because it's for those cheap crap £290 HP machines, which don't actually have Wi-Fi antennas.
Yes.
Actually, that's possibly arguably a slanderous comment. They have a Wi-Fi antenna in there. It just might not actually be plugged in.
Yeah, it's got one. But I'm not talking about this. I'll go on a rant. We're talking about something else. But yeah,
on a rant. But God,
it's terrible, Muriel.
It's like the new 11th gen Intel stuff. Like I was complaining about in the Discord server. Was it Friday morning? I think. Was it with the like
Continue
11?
Anyway.
Like 113070G something. And I was just like, what? Oh yes, the Core i7-11375H special edition. Or the 11375H special edition? Is it the 11375H?
They should have just come up with a new naming scheme. That's the problem. I mean, this is how it works. You go up through the numbers, and when you hit 10, you have to start a new naming scheme. That's the rule. That's how it's always been. You know, Nvidia have done it like 3 times with their graphics cards by now. You know, they had the they're on the 1000 series. So we had the 7000. So you had your 7800 GT. Then you had your 8800 GT. Then there was a 9800 GT, wasn't there? Or GTX or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. And then at that point, they were like, well, we can't go to a 10800. That's just dumb. So they cycled around and started on the 100 series, then the 200 series, then the 300 series, and they started a new series.
As far as they started at the 200, didn't they?
Yeah, something like that. I wasn't paying attention at the time.
Which actually kind of made sense.
Yeah.
Shockingly somehow.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is, you start out on a new scale, and that's how you do it. And you know, AMD have done the same thing with their cards to a certain extent. Although now and then they just say, you know, we're kind of bored of this series now. Let's just start a new one for the hell of it. And yeah, and Intel.
Oh, I at least like the fact
Intel are in the same situation now.
The old ones were HD something. It was like HD 7950, and now they're on RX.
Yeah.
They at least also changed the letters as well.
Yeah. But certainly at any rate, Intel have hit 10. They've hit 10 and they didn't change it. So the 10 series was a bit like, okay, that's a lot of numbers in the name now. And we were just like, this is kind of broken. But instead of actually going, okay, look, let's switch to a new series, they're like, nope, we're going in with the 11s. And it's just like, okay, stop, please. Stop, please.
But yeah, it's also just the fact that it's the 375H.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah. It's just, yeah.
If it was the 11300H, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, sure. You could say, you know, like an 11700K for the new i7 or something like that. And there probably will be one of those. But all these random little bits in the middle, it's just like, well, what the hell is that then? What the hell is an 11? What was it? 375 or 735? I don't even know.
735.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also adding in stuff like the G7 and G11 and stuff to the end of it as well. You've got like I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's saying like the 11375HG7.
Mm.
Like at that point, surely you should have picked a better name.
Yeah.
Surely you could have just called it Susan.
These companies have an entire marketing department whose job it is to name and sell stuff. And I don't understand why they don't have Karens in that marketing department going, there's too many numbers in this, we've got to change it all. You know. So yeah, like I said, it's just a serial number. Yeah. Literally that.
I'm waiting until we have floating points.
Yeah. Yep. And also again the Ryzen 5 5700 XT to the Radeon 5600 XT, which is obviously AMD playing the same. This is the thing, they're both doing it, and it's just like, you know, it's just. Yeah, we did say all this last week. We should move on. What else have we got going?
But it still is annoying.
Yes, it's still a problem. It
and
hasn't
it's just
gone
the
away.
fact that this week it got made worse. It's the fact that this week it was made worse by Intel announcing a new processor with an even worse name.
Yeah. On a similar note, I just want to quickly also talk about something which we also talked about last week. But I have more information on it, though, which I thought was interesting. And those of you who hang out in the Discord will already know this. But last week we were talking about cleaning fluids. And this, what prompted me to bring this up is two people are still talking about that i7 in chat and about lapping it and stuff like that. And they mentioned deionized water for wet and dry lapping. And last week we were talking about cleaning fluids and using glass cleaner and stuff like that. Last night we did an interesting experiment while it was 5:30 and I was dicking around in the shop. And we were talking about, someone asked, I said, oh yeah, you can use glass cleaner to clean a PCB. That's passable. It's not ideal, but you can get away with it. Someone said, oh, is glass cleaner conductive or not? And I said, you know what, I'm not actually sure. I assume it is. I'm fairly certain it is, but I don't know by how much. And so I did some actual tests. And those of you who are in the Discord will have seen us talking about this. I did a quick test with a little pot of various fluids and my power supply hooked up with two probes. And we discovered that water obviously is conductive. Glass cleaner is still very much conductive, but not quite as bad as water. And 99.9% isopropyl alcohol, basically not conductive. I could not get it to conduct up to 32 volts. I could not get any power to go through the alcohol at all, which confirms that isopropyl is not just high resistance, it is basically non-conductive. And then some other interesting things came up is someone said, what about 70% IPA? Which is a comment that I've had on my videos before where people have said, is it okay, I can't get the 99.9% lab grade stuff, is the 70% stuff okay because it's cheaper? What about rubbing alcohol? And thankfully, there was someone in the Discord who said, I've got some 70% IPA in a power supply, I'll do the same test. And they confirmed that the 70% IPA was also non-conductive. And then finally, so the 70% stuff is definitely cool. And the last really cool one was I then tested the deionized water that you left in my shop. Deionized water, non-conductive. Which is obviously exactly how it should be, but it was very interesting to see that literal deionized water was non-conductive. As soon as you take all the impurities out of it, it stops being conductive. And the last bit that I really want to test now, and I want to do an experiment to put this to the test at some point, is I want to say, how much contaminant does it take to compromise deionized water? Because obviously, if you say deionized water is non-conductive, it's like, okay, well, if I put that in my water cooling system and my water cooling system leaks, technically that shouldn't be a problem, right? Because it's non-conductive. So at what point will it become conductive again? If it mixes with dust sitting on your graphics card, will that make it conductive? if it's been run through your water cooling loop and picked up it's picked up some bits off of your water blocks and your radiator, will that make it conductive? And so I think there's actually a very interesting test to run here to see at what point will deionized water become conductive again. So, yeah.
At least certainly sufficiently conductive for 12 volts.
Yeah, exactly. Because, again, you know, I mean, I would run the test at a high voltage. Again, I'd probably be running 32 volts just as worst case. But, you know, again, although, well, yeah, we could rerun the test at 12 volts. So, yeah, it's...
Well, it was more of a case of, obviously, because you could somewhat extrapolate down from that. Because the highest you're going to get is 12 volts inside any of the components or at any of the components.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
I think it's just interesting. And I wonder how much stuff you actually pick up going through water cooling loops, just what actually changes in the water.
Yeah. Because I think that would be super interesting. So, yeah. Will I collab with Electroboom to see at what point it becomes shocking? I mean, if Electroboom wants to collab with me, he's more than welcome to. I would certainly pick up that phone call. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would pick up that phone call. Problem with your water loop leaks is the metal pickup from the water and the rad. Yeah, as K5 says, deionized water wants to attract ions from surfaces it comes into contact with, especially metals. So it kind of makes sense that the water would re-ionize. I think it would be interesting to see how long that takes. Like, does it happen within a day, kind of thing? Because I don't know if I suppose I could buy like one of those cheap Chinese water cooling kits that are like $80 or whatever, the one that Postal has, and just run that for a day, a week, a month, and see how long it takes before the water re-ionizes. So, yeah, that would be interesting, I think. I don't know what you're singing. You're having a good time, though. That's the important thing.
Well, you said I could run it for a day, a week, maybe a month, and I said, or a year. I'll be there for you. It was Friends.
Oh, right, yeah. If it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. Okay. I understood that reference.
Yes. Eventually, when it was explained to you.
You weren't really committed to your impersonation of it. But
yes, we've got we've got my loop that's got like 7 months of runtime as well.
Yeah, that would also work. Are you still running that loop? I thought you dismantled that one. Oh, actually, that's a completely separate computer, isn't it? I'd forgotten. Yeah, that's fair.
Yes. Yeah, so it's got that, and I need to at some point drain it and clean out the block.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty certain there's stuff in it. So.
Yeah. The key is wooden pumps. Oh no. Well, I wonder. This might be a strong argument for. Yeah, I mean, this might be a strong argument for, say, nickel water hardware as opposed to copper. Because like a lot of people probably say, "Oh, we want copper because copper is better cooling, right?" But like if you went nickel plated, nickel is obviously nickel is very non-reactive, isn't it? Or at least nickel plating is. So theoretically, would nickel plating be significantly better than copper? Because obviously copper is a very reactive metal. So that might react with the water faster. Whereas if you had nickel-plated water blocks and radiators, would that last longer before your water ionizes from it?
I think the correct answer to the question, though, is just check on your loop every now and then and make sure it's not
true.
leaking.
I don't think this is really... I don't think this is useful in a practical sense. I think this is more of one of those questions where... Like, there's not a doubt in my mind where there's someone out there that's just like, oh, I use deionized water, therefore it cannot short out my computer if I have a leak. There's going to be someone out there that's just like, actually, water is non-conductive kind of thing. And it's just like, yeah, we know that, but theoretically, water is non-conductive. But in practice...
You can't have plated radiators.
Yeah. Oh, you can't have a plated radiator. Well... What's the? Oh, I suppose you do aluminium if it's not copper, don't you?
Be aluminium or copper, yeah.
Yeah.
Copper. Copper.
I don't know if aluminium would count because
And we know that aluminium is one of the more reactive metals.
yeah, but then on the other hand, aluminium's a weird animal because it's so reactive that it forms a layer of oxidization over itself anyway. But then on the other hand, it's also very soft, so that oxidization would come off very easily into the liquid, which then compromises the liquid.
Yeah.
So they don't nickel plate the inside of the water blocks because of the skived fins, don't they? Huh. Okay, yeah. I would need to do a lot of research on this because, yeah.
I think ultimately it's a case of it doesn't actually make any difference.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious about this just from a mad science perspective, just to learn more about I'm interested in learning more about the materials that we use every day in our computers. That's my angle here. Just
I think the other thing that would be interesting to do is just take a currently running computer and just submerge it in deionized water.
That'd be the best clickbait ever, wouldn't it? I threw my computer in the bathtub. That yeah, you'd certainly get clicks from that. You'd certainly get clicks from that. And you know what?
FX 4300 died making this video. Oh no.
Mineral oil, yeah, that's been done though. We know mineral oil works. That's the thing.
Just makes a mess everywhere.
Water would be immediately contaminated by the board. Yeah. Fair enough. Filled my AIO with mercury. Next week, torn from the headlines of next week, I got mercury poisoning after filling my AIO with mercury.
Yeah. Just use engine oil. Just replace the water in your loop with engine oil. Some 0W30. That's right. That's how it works, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. There might be something interesting on this. As I say, I'm not looking to.
You're pumping.
Sometimes this is interesting because I sometimes it's worth making videos just to learn more about the topic, not because there's actually a hard lesson or resolution from it, which is kind of the angle that I go at with a lot of my review videos. Like when I was doing the capture cards and the webcams and stuff like that, it's not necessarily to show you this is the exact capture card or this is the exact webcam I would recommend buying. It's mainly just to show what's out there and what the differences are and stuff like that. So it's a case of like, when I was running the experiment of conductivity for water, glass cleaner, and isopropyl, we kind of knew what the results from that would be already. But it's interesting to run the test and see it for yourself and go, look at that. The science is true, kind of thing. That's kind of the interesting bit. And it's also interesting to me, especially because if the deionized water was non-conductive, that tells us that they're not using deionized water in the glass cleaner, or the chemicals of the glass cleaner itself are conductive. So there's interesting ideas that can come from that. I don't know.
Indeed. But yes, I feel it's I feel it's just a knowledge for knowledge's sakes.
Yeah, I suppose. I'm interested in that sometimes. Now and then I've got time for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah. Iceman asks, are there air coolers that transfer as much heat as liquid? You want to OC, but you hate the idea of water in your computer case. Yeah. Although that much being said, there are certainly very good air coolers. If you stick a big-ass Noctua on top of your CPU, you've still got a huge amount of cooling capacity. there is a strong argument to be made that a big ass Noctua is just as good as an AIO. There are differences between them, and there are places where the AIO will win out. However, if you want big cooling, there are plenty of air options, and the big, huge Noctua coolers, like the NHD15, the big Noctuas will easily give you all the cooling capacity you will need for anything other than workstation class CPUs. So yeah. But the reason why AIOs become very if you're overclocking, heavily. The reason why a lot of people like AIOs and the reason why I like them is just because I don't like a big brick of metal in the middle of my computer. And the best part of AIOs is that you're moving that bulk somewhere else in the case. So
which you can kind of hide.
Yeah. Extreme cooling results in moisture. Yeah, Caradog can tell you a thing or two about that.
Oh, lies, slander. No idea what you're on about. Yes, there are some decidedly nasty photos of some capacitors.
Let's not forget the thermal paste can dramatically improve an air cooler. In an extreme comparison, yes. If you go from like some really nasty cheap Chinese thermal paste versus some thermal grizzly, not surprising, the thermal grizzly will do significantly better. But it doesn't make a massive difference with air cooling. Like one of the reasons why I just use basic Arctic MX4 is that Arctic MX4 is really cheap and it's middle of the charts on everything. It does pretty good. And in the vast majority of cases, you're talking a couple of degrees, arguably within the margin of error in most tests. The time where you want to be using exotic thermal pastes is when you're doing extreme cooling. Because, for example, Arctic MX4 is not designed to work at below, say, 0 degrees or something like that. It starts failing. Yeah. Whereas Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut, as the name suggests, is designed to operate at very low temperatures. So when you dump a load of liquid nitrogen onto it, it will still transfer heat. That's what you're paying for with Cryonaut. Yeah. It's not, if you're working at temperatures of around 50 to 670 degrees, which is where we're sitting with air cooling, your Thermal Grizzly versus, say, MX4, not going to make any massive difference at all. It'll be negligible. And Caradog and I have put this to the test ourselves in fairly unscientific tests, but we did a lot of testing with a couple of different thermal pastes and found no appreciable difference between them. However, when you go into extreme cooling and you're going subambient, you will see a big difference there. So, yeah.
Yes, we used MX4, Arctic Ceramique, some cheap crap we found somewhere, and Thermal Grizzly on 2980s, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right.
And we basically couldn't tell a difference on any of them.
The reason why we didn't bother making a video is we didn't come up with any results. Which arguably is a result itself, but the video...
it was a case of we didn't control enough variables to make any sort of concrete conclusion, but it was enough to kind of go, there's nothing really here.
That's right. If we had done a really strict scientific test, then we could have said, we did a really strict scientific test and couldn't find anything outside the margin of error. However, we didn't do a really strict scientific test and we didn't come up with any results, which means we basically got nothing. What we needed was, if we had seen results with a non-scientific test, we could have said, look, even with this really hodgepodge test, we are seeing a difference. Therefore, we can extrapolate that in a more scientific test, we may see even bigger results. However, on back of the napkin tests, we got nothing. And so it wasn't worth continuing.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes.
It was just
shaves off 10 degrees with his beard alone.
So it was kind of a case of it was like...
Carry on.
I was using was it? I've forgotten what they're called. The hotspot temperature measurements. And the hotspot measurements were basically identical, with the clock speeds being within 5 megahertz of each other,
Yeah.
with the fan speeds being set the same speed. So it's just kind of a case of, it was like, if there is a difference, it's too small for us to measure with anything we have.
Yeah.
And it's a case that it's not actually making any real world difference. There was certainly no frame rate difference. There was a frame rate difference on the first one because I was thermal throttling, because I had a really dodgy mount on one of them. Fixing the dodgy mount did far more for the cooling than changing the paste around.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah.
The thing I found quite interesting is whilst I was testing all of the different combinations, trying to work out what had failed this week, I kept reusing the paste on the bottom of my Noctua, and on the final one, I actually mounted it down, torqued it down properly, and just saw what temperatures I got, and cleaned it all off, repasted it with Cryonaut, and got maybe 2 degrees different.
Yeah.
Maybe. And I was just like, 6 or 7 remounts with no repasting.
Yeah.
It shockingly made a tiny, tiny difference. And I was amazed as to how small the difference was.
Yeah. And this leads up to my answer of someone in the chat, I can't see where it was now, but someone said, can you reuse thermal paste? And the answer to that is most people will say, no, you can't do that. The reality is, yeah, you can, as long as the mount is good. The mount, so how good the heatsink has settled onto the chip with the thermal paste, is far more important than the thermal paste itself. If the mount is right, then you'll get good temperatures. You can have the best thermal paste in the world, but if it's a bad mount, your temperatures will still be garbage.
Absolutely.
So the times where it makes a difference, because also I'm aware of the fact that earlier on in this stream I said I repasted a CPU and a graphics card and got massive improvements in the thermals. That was because that thermal paste was old, grotty, and had been cooked to hell, which was why it was knackered. Now, if you've just simply taken a heatsink off to, if you built your computer 6 months ago, and then you need to take it apart because either there was a problem with it or you need to inspect it, you can just slap that boy straight back on with the same paste. It'll be fine, as long as the mount is good. So that's the time when you can reuse your thermal paste, because it really doesn't matter. However, if the thermal paste is old and grotty and baked to hell, that's when you should be reusing it. But yeah, certainly there are some people that are like, no, as soon as the heatsink comes off the chip, you've got to clean off the thermal paste. Not true, not at all. Absolutely not true.
I would say that I'm more happy reusing it on like the bottom of my Noctua, just because I know that the bottom of that is very flat anyway. They have been measured with surface level flatness machines being very flat, because that's what they specialize in. And so it's a case of I'm happy to reuse thermal paste on that, because I know that the gaps that are going to be in there aren't going to be anywhere near as big as something like the A500.
Yeah, and that's an
interesting
interesting.
Flatness of no.
Yes. Yeah, and that's an interesting response to you and Lewis there. Doesn't the remount create air bubbles? This is what I was about to say as well, is that you were mentioning flatness. You have to look at the thermal paste and go and look at what condition it's in. If your thermal paste is still nice and flat and uniform, it's fine. But if you take it off and it's just suddenly all been pulled into a lump in the corner, then you may at least have to get a credit card and just flatten that out. Air bubbles, I have not looked into how much of an issue air bubbles can really be. I've had some people
imagine.
I don't believe that that's a real issue unless you have extreme circumstances. Like a lot of people have told me that, because my thermal paste pattern of choice is X marks the spot, and a lot of people have said, you shouldn't do that, it makes air bubbles. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. By the time you've pushed that down, it's all going to go anyway.
My method of application is just kind of going, ooh. tube and just sort of drawing over the top of a CPU until the tube stops going, and just dribbling. I'm like, stop, stop, stop. I'm not wasting any of you. You're expensive. Get back in that tube.
So air bubbles are the entire reason that Tim exists. Technically, yeah, the micro cracks and stuff like that. It's yeah. I don't think that literal air bubbles are really an important factor. But again, it's you need to use your judgment. If if the thermal paste is all lumpy and it's gone horrible, then no, you shouldn't be reusing that. It's kind of a judgment call, really, and that kind of leaves a bit of a wishy-washy conclusion where we haven't really answered the question. But I think the important thing is just a lot of people who say you must replace your thermal paste is either two things: is either A, they're wrong and they're just being actualies, or B, they're saying it because if you replace your thermal paste, then you definitely know that the thermal paste is good. It's kind of like when you're working on your car and the YouTube videos always say, remember to disconnect your battery. You probably don't need to disconnect your battery most of the time when you're working on your car, but they'll tell you to do that anyway because just you can't possibly make your situation any less safe by disconnecting the battery. And the same with thermal paste. It's the real answer to can you reuse thermal paste is long and complicated. It's a lot easier to just say no, you should replace it. But the reality is that if the thermal paste is good and it's not bundled up in the corner, yeah, sure, you can just slap that guy back down again and it'll be fine. And likewise, in a lot of diagnostic videos, I have perched heat sinks on top of CPUs with no thermal paste, just sitting on top of the chip. And people have been like, you're going to burn that CPU out, like doing that. And I'm just like, A, no, and B, no. And to extrapolate on that, A, no, and B, you've just watched the video and the CPU didn't burn out, so no. Now, granted, you're going to get really terrible temperatures doing that. If you've just got your heatsink sitting under its own weight on top of a CPU with no thermal paste, the temperatures are going to be garbage. But I'm running memtest. I don't care if it's running at 60 degrees in memtest. When I'm trying to get a PC to post, the temperature that the CPU is running at is the least of my worries when I'm in a no post. I don't care about the temperature when I'm trying to get the thing to boot up. Now, once we're into games and we're optimizing, then you can care about temperatures, and then we can get a really good mount on the cooler and all the rest of it. But a lot of people need to, it's about what your priorities are. So, yeah, that's about that.
I mean, my method when doing that was just, put your fingers on the CPU, and if you can't hold them on there, you should probably no longer have the computer on. Because I was just testing to see if the CPU was completely dead as well, trying to be like, will this actually generate any heat in the CPU? If there is no heat in the CPU at all, we know it's not even getting to that stage in post.
I do actually want to do more tests on this. I'm trying to make a point of when I've got computers running with the lid off, I'm trying to make a point of poking in various places. Like one of the things in question was the other day I had a MacBook Air running open, and while it was running, I was resting my finger on the PCH. Because the MacBook Air, the older ones that didn't have the integrated PCH with a separate PCH chip, no heatsink on it, and I wanted to know how hot does the PCH actually get? Because some of them have heat sinks on, tiny little heat sinks on them, some of them don't. Sometimes you get CPUs with the integrated PCH. Sometimes that PCH doesn't actually have any thermal contact to the heatsink, and sometimes it does. And so it's a question of, well, does the PCH actually warm up? And the answer to that was it gets lukewarm, but you can easily keep the back of your little finger on it without it being uncomfortable at all. So that means that when I've got a laptop that doesn't turn on and I start injecting power and I'm like, I can't figure out what's wrong with this, if the PCH is burning to the touch, that means it's probably a dead PCH, because I know it's not supposed to get that hot. So sometimes it will be interesting to run this test and actually stick a CPU on, have your finger on the back of the power supply, and just see how long it takes that CPU to warm up, because then you know how long it takes that CPU to actually warm up. So
if it's going to actually post and it's getting to the CPU stage, it's like 5 or 6 seconds.
Yeah, I
At
mean,
least for a 5950X.
yeah. Clearly, you've done that test, but yeah, it was.
Yes, I assumed I had a dead CPU because it was failing
Hmm.
to boot in 2 different motherboards.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it's vanished off the chat, and I can't find it. But oh yeah, there it was. Yeah, you and Lewis just said, yeah, I've run an i7 920 with no heatsink just to get BIOS pics for eBay, and it was fine. So yeah. Now, of course, again, it bears mention we don't recommend any of this, but this is the thing: is knowledge for knowledge's sake, because a lot of the time when you're in a situation that you actually have to know this, you're probably well outside the bounds of a normal circumstance anyway. When you actually need to know this kind of information, you're outside of the textbook anyway. So it's kind of, people go sort of, oh, well, when are you ever going to run a CPU without a heatsink? And I'm like, well, I don't know, but at some point I'm going to have what looks like a dead CPU, and I'm going to want to know the CPU is cold while the power is on. How long do I need to wait before I should expect to feel heat from the CPU? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of excuse me, another litmus test on, is this actually a completely dead system?
Yeah, that's right. And as I say, while these questions seem a bit bonkers, I think it's very interesting in the same way that I think it's interesting to know if glass cleaner is conductive or not. So
yeah.
Stuart Cleary, thank you very much for the €10. Nice tech talk. Do you guys drink? The answer to that is yes. I like me some cider. I like a good medium dry cider. That's it.
Absolutely. I was having some Merlot this evening. It was very nice.
Yep.
All right. Yes, I also am a cider drinker as well.
Finally, I think as the last topic of the night, because we're just about to hit the 2-hour marker, Logan Parker has been talking about mice and keyboards, specifically very cheap mice and keyboards. So he did ask about an RGB keyboard for less than 20 quid and a cheap mouse for less than £15. So you're not going to get anything good in that price bracket, is the bottom line. However, if you don't mind rolling the dice on some really cheap hardware, try checking out like AliExpress or Banggood for RGB mice and keyboards. And you could probably get some really cheap Chinese stuff for that kind of price. Now, the penalty is it'll be really plasticky and very lightweight, and it won't weigh anything, and it'll feel a bit gross. But you would get what you're looking for. If you want anything that's actually got quality in it, you're going to have to spend more than that, is the only thing I can say. And it seems to be especially true because, again, mice and keyboards are in shorter supply because everyone's buying them to use at home now, it seems. Especially the wireless ones. Like, trying to buy a Logitech wireless keyboard and mouse set, they're like hen's teeth at the moment. So, yeah.
You can do the wonderful thing I did and buy the Mac version of mice.
That's horrendous and also incredibly smart.
No, it was incredibly dumb because the Mac version of the Logitech mouse doesn't come with the receiver.
Where it's Bluetooth, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, but it doesn't come with the receiver and costs £10 more.
No. Oh, God,
Yes.
That's the worst kind of Apple tax.
Yes, exactly. So
I retract what I said. That's horrendous.
I bought this, and as you can see there, it says for Mac.
Yeah.
It's Bluetooth only. It's Bluetooth only out the box because it doesn't come with the receiver. It works fine with the universal receivers from Logitech.
Yeah.
You just obviously have to have one already.
That's amazing. It doesn't come with one and it costs more. It doesn't get any more Apple than that, does it? Logitech looks at the iPhone and we're just like, oh, we can do that. We'll find a way. That's
the thing I like about the new ones, the new Logitech mice, is they're USB-C. And they support somewhat fast charging.
Yeah.
I think you can charge it for 3 minutes and get an hour and a half of use. Or give it a full charge and they say it will last for 90 days.
You and Lewis said, did it have one button? The thought occurred to me when you were about to say what the problem with it was. I was like, Don't tell me it's only got one button or the left and right click both do the same thing or something like that. That would be astonishing.
Oh no, it's got a good number of buttons on it. I like it. It's a really nice mouse, other than the fact I bought the Mac version, so it's of little use for the office.
I'd be interested to know how well the quality for it lasts over time, because I have heard that Logitech seem to have taken a bit of a dip in quality.
Yeah,
but
the last thing I've got to compare it to is the MX Master 1 that we bought in. Actually, I have no idea when we got them.
5 years, 10 years ago.
X470 launched.
Okay. Well,
basically,
so possibly only 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago.
Yeah.
For that, and then some of them a little bit before that. So we had them.
Yeah.
But yes, they've been absolutely fine. And then using this one, it feels very nice as well. The thing I like is the scroll wheel is a clicky scroll wheel, but if you scroll it quickly, it freewheels.
Oh, interesting. So like you can flick it and it goes into freewheel.
So don't know if you can see its steps.
Yeah.
If I do, just spins.
So it's got like some kind of clutch in it, almost.
Effectively.
That's rad. That's very cool, because that's actually the
delightful noises.
The freewheel mechanism is one of my favorite parts. The freewheel mechanism is the reason why I always buy a Logitech mouse, because again, my mouse, which is kind of grotty at the moment, which is kind of gross. I'm just going to wipe it on my sleeve like a professional. I've got an M705 here, also known as the Marathon mouse. I've had this thing for ages, and again, this one has got the freewheeling thing, but it's controlled with this button on top. So at the moment, it's steps, but if I press that button, it then freewheels. And it's my favorite feature on this mouse, because when I'm in a game or something like that, I want solid steps because I'm using it to switch weapons or something like that. Whereas when I'm on a web page and I want to quickly scroll to the top or bottom, I literally tap the button and I can go pew, and it will just freewheel to the top of the page. It's a wicked feature, and if they've managed to implement that without having the clicker button, that's very cool. I really like that. And to my knowledge, it's a Logitech only party trick.
Presume it's patented up the wazoo.
Oh yeah, you're probably right, actually. But yeah, this is one of the reasons why I still like Logitech mice. And I find it very difficult to because this is the thing. I kind of want a new mouse, because this thing is old and grotty, very, very, very worn. I mean, like, look at this is the right hand side of it. Can you see where I've worn straight through the rubber on that, all the way through to the plastic? That's how old this I've had this mouse for probably about eight plus years, and my the nail of my little pinky finger, where I've been holding it like that, has gone all the way through to the plastic. Yeah, that mouse has character, and this is the thing. I kind of want a new mouse, but the other part of me is just like, but my M705 though, like, I've replaced the buttons in it and everything. So yeah, I don't know. It's I kind of want something new, but I also don't know if I can find anything that would actually match up to this. And on top of that as well, this thing lasts for literally more than a year on a pair of batteries. But yeah.
Yeah. I still have somewhere over, actually it's in the office now, my G5 2007.
Oh yeah.
Which is the re-release of it, which was the blue version as opposed to the silver and brown one. And like, that thing just won't die.
Yeah. The old ones were tanks, and I hear the new ones are not so good.
Yeah. Right. And then I bought like a G9, and I was just like, I want a new mouse. My other one hasn't stopped working, and I'm just like, I'm in the really awkward position of just kind of wanting new mice and stuff, but being like, I've had this one for 4 years, I should replace it, but it still works absolutely fine, and I've had to do nothing to it. Damn it.
Yeah. Right. The real list. Companies that do mice. Graham wants to test those mice out. Sure. If anyone here works for Logitech or any peripheral companies, call me. I will test it.
Yes, anyone with
Yep. Mouse that came with the K800 is practically the same as the one I own. Yeah, probably. So, yeah. Right. I think, unless you've got anything else to talk about, I think we should wrap up because we're at the 2-hour marker, and it's 9 p.m. here. And also, as someone pointed out, Big Clive is just going live as well, and I don't want to step on Big Clive's time.
absolutely. Got to watch Big Clive live carbonating more alcoholic beverages.
The guy's a legend. I love him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, everyone. So, thus concludes our test of a different time for the podcast.
Indeed. I'm
And
going to be shuffling to different times and stuff and seeing what works as
yeah,
well.
we'll try some various things. So again, watch this space. Keep an eye on the Adamant IT Twitter account for when we'll next go up. Or failing that, obviously, I'll schedule the video with before we start, like either Friday night or Saturday morning. The scheduled stream will go up, so you'll know when it's going out anyway.
Absolutely.
So failing that, you can always catch up on the VOD. Continue the conversation on our Discord. Caradog, have you got the link to hand? If not, I'll grab it.
No,
I'm grabbing it.
because
then.
I am in a state of semi-brokenness.
Okay, right. There we go. There's the Discord. Continue the conversation on the Discord. And we guys will see you next week.
I've been forced into.
Sorry?
Number of Chrome windows I've been forced into by everything kind of going, no, we're only working in the browser version.
Your audio sync is a million miles out at the moment, and it has been for most of the stream. But at this point, it's just like, look, we can hear what you're saying. That's close enough. But yeah.
Absolutely.
So can we raid someone? I don't know how to raid on YouTube. So otherwise, I would probably go raid Big Clive and try and get some clout. But I don't know how to raid. So I'm going to close up. Drop a link. Oh, is that all we do? Yeah. Well, go follow Big Clive anyway. Right, we're off. Thank you for tuning Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Do join the Discord if you want to keep chatting to us and say hello. Otherwise, https twitter.com/ is that Adamant IT? I can't. Where's my Twitter window? Yes, it is Adamant IT. Adamant IT on Twitter to see when I'm next streaming. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everyone. We are out of here. See you all soon. Thanks for coming by. Thank you for all the super chats. Much love. See you next week. Bye, everyone.
Farewell.
End stream. End stream. There we go. That has ended.